I'm celebrating 46 years of success. The great in my beard don't only represent stress. It represents the weight, the pressure, the agony, the beast and the opposition put on my anatomy. Academy of Hard Knocks, Institute of Tough Luck. Wish I had a dime for every time that I've been cuffed up. Born suspect ever since I was a child. I could see the fear and hatred behind the fake smiles. The only ones who ever kept it real was the Jakes, who pat me down daily, hoping I make a mistake. Like walking out the door with weight or a pistol, so they could blow holes in me until I start to whistle. The issue is the same. Michael Brown is just another name. A link onto the never-ending chain. Black street gangs, the police, and the government produce the same result. I wonder if they hold a covenant. Benevolent brotherhood to make brothers irrelevant. Eliminate the melanin, reduce the carbon element. Celibate, prison populations can't propagate. Sectimize the black man. No need to operate, but still I escape. Only sustain minor injuries. Statistically define the odds of modern history. The misery perpetrated by my mortal enemies. 47 calendars later, I'm claiming victory. You put me in chains, took me places that were strange, strung me up and let me hang from a tree. Shot me in the back and then you claim that I attacked. So this time I will exact my victory. When it's time I will exact my victory. All right. Welcome, everyone. This is another episode of Legal Open Mic. Tonight, we have a very special guest, Attorney Èzili Dantò. I apologize. She's a lawyer for many rap. She's born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and raised in the United States. She's a Haitian historian, scholar, political activist, as well as the most sought-after social commentator who has appeared on many different platforms. So we really welcome her with open arms. She's going to speak about what's actually going on right now in Haiti, and it's going to bring us up to speed with the background of Haiti, starting from actually the Haitian Revolution, or maybe even before that. So without further ado, we welcome Attorney Èzili Dantò. Peace and blessings.
Honor and respect, my sisters. Nash and Teresa Rogers.
Good evening.
I'm going to put on some fire here because I see that it's going to be fire, right?
Oh, we got fire. We need fire. We got to keep it burning.
Okay.
Some people, they not acting like they with it. We got to make sure they either going to be in or out. And if they out, they got to be over there, recognize that they're not part of this. We are in a spiritual war, and it's no time for people catching up with what's happening. Let me get my sage. I need my sage.
Okay, let's get it together. Here we go. I don't know if you guys could even see it.
What?
Can you see that fire?
Yeah, I can see it. I surely can.
Okay. Anyways, it's already there.
I see it.
Okay.
So, let's try to, for people who probably may not know, which we can't assume that everybody understands how special Haiti is spiritually to all people of color, without the separation of, okay, well, you're from America, you were born in America, you were born here. Haiti is the symbolism that was the first revolt that said, no slavery. No, we're not doing it. Can you bring everybody up to date as to the history of Haiti? And was it always called Haiti, or was that area called something else and then the name changed?
Okay, so first, we are a spiritual people. I say honor and respect to you, Naj. Great to meet you.
Honor and respect to you too.
Honest, before all that we don't see, before all that is greater than we, I say honor and respect to all your listeners. Yes, we are a spiritual people. And the name is not hate. It's pronounced A-Y-T. Ah is the sound of creation. And those who know, obviously for reasons of war, they changed the name or the pronunciation of the name to Haiti. So everything is about making you hate IET. So you will see me using when I say IET, you know I'm talking about what they call Haiti.
Okay.
Okay. So IET is the name. It means earth. It means sacred highland. In the time of Christopher Columbus, the pedophile, IET was ruled by the people that the Eurasians call Tainos. But the Tainos, and they tell you that the Tainos were, I guess, Indian or Native Americans. But IET, there were black people there. There were the Guaninis, there were the black Caracals, there were a bunch, of different ethnicities because we are originals to the planet Earth. We were in the Americas before the Mongolians and Chinese got here. And then after them came the Europeans and different waves. So it had, to answer your question directly, 3 different names. I hope I can remember all 3, but Haiti was the more used name for the entire island. So it's not little Spain, right? Because that's what the Spanish called it when they got there, Hispaniola. And that's what they keep calling it whenever there's a big hurricane. You see them on the map. There's like, this is island of Hispaniola. No, it was always the island of Haiti, right? We won that war and got rid of the Spanish, remember? So, but in different segment of that island, it was called Boyo, also meaning my home. And then Quisqueya, meaning mother of the earth. So just the name alone gives you some clues. Wow. I just finished doing an interview where someone asked me what was so special at IET. Why are we subject to all this hate and destruction? and I said, because what's in IET, they want anybody to know.
Interesting. So I want to try to get as much, because I know you've had a really long day, and but at the same time, I want to try to get as much as possible out of this interview and make it really, really as strong as possible. And
I will. Could you give me a link so I can share with my people, because they're waiting for me so they can know where this is? Can you put it in the chat?
Yes,
I'd appreciate it. Don't worry, I am all yours, because I know we were supposed to be here before, and that so whatever time you need, this is your time, Naj.
Well, thank you so much.
So let me just get nice and comfortable here so you can ask me whatever your audience might want.
Okay.
I have my people waiting on Facebook for me to give them so they can watch.
Okay.
We're good. And I'm going to be sending it to my other folks along the way.
Let me just see one more thing. I'm going to text it to you. I did put it.
No problem. No problem. You can, if you text it to me, I'll email it to myself and then put it on Facebook.
Okay. While I'm doing that, can you tell me, because I'm confused too, about what happened with Haiti? With Haiti and the country that they share the island with. And I'm looking for my notes. The Dominican Republic. What's the history? What's the real story behind the whole split with the two?
Okay, so just the quick history, if I can. In 1492, Columbus and his merry men of rapists got to this island. This is the first place where the Holocaust for Africans in what they call the Americas started. It's also the first place where the Africans who were enslaved by these European bodied supremacists beat three European powers to to create this land, this Haiti, and take back the name of the conquered folks that were there before. So
Okay.
1492 he gets there, and then he commits genocide on that population, and within 15 years they start, well, by 1503 on that population, and within 15
Sorry about that.
years, that's okay, they start importing. So okay, so this is stop importing Africans in 1503. They start importing Africans in Haiti, and so that's basically what we have. So then this was the Spanish. Remember, he was working for the Spanish. Remember that Columbus was working for the Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's why when he got there, he called it Hispaniola. I'm just gonna finish posting and then I'll be right with you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Done. So when he got there, he was working for Ferdinand, the Spanish king, monarchs. They're the one that finances his thing. So his journey to the Americas. And at that time, the greatest power in the world at that time was Spain and Portugal. And they were dividing, they were Catholic nations. They were dividing the Americas amongst themselves. And they were using the Vatican as the power, the mediator that would decide which one of these nations could get the lands that they were stealing, right? The conquistadors went all over South America, right? And then they were in Haiti. That's the genesis of the Dominican Republic, right? So in something like 1797, I believe, there was a bunch of French pirates that were on the north end of Haiti. They kept raiding the mainland owned by the Spanish, right? Mm-hmm. And then eventually there was a war, and the French divided the island with the Spanish. So one side was called Saint-Domingue, the other was called Santo Domingo. Okay? But so that's where Santo Domingo is the Dominican Republic. Saint-Domingue was, okay, so one was owned by Spain now because the pirates, 1797, they had a treaty within themselves. And so this island was divided between two European nations, okay? Mm-hmm. The French and the Spanish. Then in 1791, the Africans the Spanish had started bringing to the whole entire island, okay? When they owned that whole entire island. My ancestors got together and they began a revolution on the French side of the island against France. Mm-hmm. At that time, the European tribes were fighting each other for the lands of the indigenous people of the Americas, okay? And so essentially, the Africans won the fight in Haiti, but they had to fight three European tribes, right? At that time, for instance, like if you look up in the map, there's Jamaica, which was colonized by Great Britain, right? And then you have Cuba right next to us, which is colonized by the Spanish. And then you have to the other side of us, you have the other Spanish space, which was Santo Domingo, right? With me?
Gotcha.
Below us was like Colombia, Ecuador, and what's like Venezuela, Spanish, right? Remember, I told you the Spanish were the biggest power at that point in time in history, right? And then the Northern Europeans were fighting to unseat the Spanish, the British, and the French, and the Portuguese, right? The Portuguese started bringing in Africans in Brazil. Today, the most Black people on the Americas is in Brazil. A nation with that is made up of more of Africans only. 99% of Haiti's population is African. Okay, so Dominican Republic did not come into being until about 1840 something, 42 or 44. This was after the Haitian Revolution. So when the revolution started, our ancestors strategized to divide and conquer the Europeans fighting for power. So they didn't really take us for much, right? They just thought we were animals, inferior, and so on, right? So they never even imagined or conceived that we could beat them in combat, because that's what they were taught by the Jesuits. That's what they believed, you know. And if you believe, sometimes you could make it a reality for your lifetime. That's what they believe until they met Haiti's founding father, Jacques Dessalines, the greatest hero who ever lived. 1791, a man, enslaved man out of Jamaica, was deported to Haiti or sold to Haiti, whatever. And his name was Bookman. The revolution started there, 1791. And then, so when that revolution started in 1791, the Spanish were looking at us fighting the French and just kind of waiting to see if they could just pick up the pieces, like get the French out of their faces, right? Let us bleed, right? So Toussaint Louverture and Jean-Jacques Dessalines and the warrior leaders made a deal with the Spanish. They gave them guns and they helped them kick the French out of Haiti, right? But you know the European, right? He's always about conquest and lies. So our ancestors knew that they were going to try to take over Haiti. So guess what? We fought them and took over the entire island. And so when that war was won, I mean so they kept fighting back and forth. Then the English decided, oh my goodness, this island. Remember, Haiti was the biggest moneymaker for France. Okay, it made more money for France than the 13 colonies did for England. The 13 American colonies made for England. Okay, it was called the Pearl of the Antilles by the terrorists French. So the war went on for 13 years. We kept allying with different European powers who thought that we were stupid enough to believe what they were saying, but we didn't. Whenever we finished fighting with one, we fought him to get them out, right? Eventually, and I think it was 1797, there was a treaty called the Treaty of Basel, where we went back to fighting with the French on behalf of the French so we can get rid of the Spanish at some point, right? And that Treaty of Basel is really important because most Dominicans today believe that they're Spanish or that somehow Haitians invaded their country. It wasn't that way. By the Treaty of Basel, the Spanish gave up all rights to their part of the island to France by the BASEL, 1797, I believe. We won against the French in 1804. So when we did, that means France had, excuse me, the Spain had given up. So we own everything that the French owned in Haiti. That meant the Dominican Republic. So Jean-Jacques Dessalines and the warriors of the Haitian Revolution freed the entire island, not just this little tiny half. And then when we freed the entire island, we sent warriors to South America, and we freed 5 Latin American countries, including Colombia, Ecuador, Venezuela, and so on, Bolivia. But you know, the European can never forgive us, and they never stop. Like they never stop. To this day, they haven't stopped trying to reverse the Haitian Revolution. So once we had beaten them, Napoleon had to sell the Louisiana territory to Jefferson, okay, which doubled the size of states that are in the United States and like more than quadrupled the size of the United States. Remember, there was only the 13 states.
Right.
They doubled it to like 15 or more whole and part states, doubled it, but quadrupled because remember how big the Louisiana territory is.
Right.
In terms of, you know, okay. So that's really the story of the Dominican Republic. In 14, I think I'm going to get these dates a little wrong. It's between 1842 and 1844. I think 1842, there was a big earthquake. The European, both the French and the Spanish, were trying to come back and take the islands, the parts they lost to Black people, which they thought it was an insult. All right. So there was an earthquake in Haiti. They used that earthquake to start a revolution, not really start a revolution in the Spanish part, right, and say that this Spanish part has separated. And then like the people of that part hadn't even known what was going on when the Europeans declared Dominican Republic existed. And that's how it became the Dominican Republic, because at that same time, like I said, we were fighting a couple of things. There was the French was trying to come back on their side, and the mulatto sons of France who actually killed Jean-Jacques Dessalines, they agreed to stop France from coming back. They agreed to pay what they call the independence debt, but it was an extortion debt.
Wow.
But the debt was being paid for the entire island, remember? And then so the people who were the mulatto presidents made a deal with their fathers, right? In France, because they were more Eurocentric after they killed Jean-Jacques Dessalines. They made a deal that we, the Black masses, would have to pay back for France losing us as property. It's called the independence debt. It took Haiti 122 years to pay it back. It wasn't paid back until 1947. That's why Haiti is so poor, right? It's financial colonialism, right? But this mulatto sons of France who had their fathers in Europe and Eurocentric couldn't care less that the Black slaves, which they used to own, now had to pay back and go back into sharecropping, basically, to pay France. And France didn't have to have, it was a new slavery without having to pay for housing or food for the enslaved, right? But when those two things happened around the 1842 kind of time, the Haitians or Black folks who were in what they call the Dominican Republic today said, why are we paying an independence debt to France when they didn't own this part? So they were not happy. And so the European used all of that unhappiness, right, to separate. And then the France made a deal to reduce the debt from $150 million in gold to 90 million, because now the Dominican Republic was taken by Spain. Okay, so that's kind of the story. I have incorporated the independence debt. So those financial colonialism cost us our lands. The earthquake helped them do the separation, and this is what they're doing now.
I
They
was
use
going
the
to ask.
earthquake. Yes, they used the 2010 earthquake to take over Haiti and have it be run by a syndicate of ambassadors representing these same nations that we fought over and killed. France, and you guys know Canada is really England and France. So France, Canada, Germany, Spain, Brazil, and then the OAS, the UN, and the European Union. They call themselves like the core group. I'm missing one because there's 9. Germany, France, Spain, Canada, the United States. I hope I said 9. 6 nations, and then 3 organizations are called the core group. Okay. And so they're the ones today that use the earthquake to rule Haiti. And that's why you see those Del Rio Haitians at that border. They have tried, they were Haitians who Obama, who was the president of the United States during the earthquake in 2010. And with, Biden was his vice president. And Obama is known as the deporter in chief, even though the white progressive will tell you that this is about deportation and family, whatever you call that, family separation is something that somehow Trump invented. That's not true. All right, both the Demon Rats and the Republicans have treated Haitian refugees in the same racist manner in all the years that I've worked. Both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Equally, right? That's why I always say the West is one evil with 2 faces.
Mm. Wow. So the role that Obama and Biden played is the same role now that that Biden's playing with Miss Harris, who's missing in action, Kamala Harris. So it's always been this whole, what exactly is it? We know it's a spiritual area, and they can't deal with the spirituality to be able to beat Haiti, to be able to keep saying the name incorrectly.
You can say that's all right. I do. I tell people IET, but because of what people know, you can go ahead and say Haiti, as long as you establish first that is a sound of creation.
Mm-hmm.
Is a sound of creation, and so there's a reason why they change it to their lingual. But you can say Haiti. That's fine. We know you're talking about IET.
So Obama during that time period, and Biden, and now it's Biden and Kamala Harris. So it's the same game plan, and it seems like every time a hurricane happens or earthquake happens, they use that as an opportunity to try to do more. Because what's concerning is how it's all of a sudden in the media when it's been happening for forever. It's nothing new. So now you have to sit back and question, like, why is the media all of a sudden focusing on it? They have never focused on it before, So why do you think it's all of a sudden in the media?
They're playing their geopolitical games, right? There was right before then, you had all of these Afghans, and the psychological message being given that America just lost against the Taliban and these folks, right? They didn't want to keep that in the news too long. It's much more psychologically, it feeds their psychological superiority complex. to see barefoot Haitians bringing food to their families that are being starved under a bridge get whipped by a cowboy. It maintains their Superman mythology, right? Because they just got beaten by the Taliban and those people in Afghanistan, right?
Right.
So they took that off of the media rounds. And so the whole lie of 9/11, right? Because we're in September.
Right.
Everybody was talking about the lie of 9/11, right? They don't want Americans to really get deeply into thinking about the lies that from 9/11 to now.
Right.
The fact that this Afghani and Iraq war was handed a rounding failure for Superman and the Justice League. So what better, more psychological, uplifting than to see the Black masses from Haiti who are constantly can't rule themselves. They're violent, they stink, they're diseased. And let's beat them and deport them and inject some glee in our nation. That's what they do.
So,
This is why.
so when did you know about the water situation and how they were poisoning the water systems? And when did you first become aware? And then what did you immediately begin to do once you knew that that was happening?
All right. So the earthquake happened on January 12th, 2010. At that time, Mrs. Clinton is Secretary of State. Obama hires or what's his name? Bill Clinton is a UN envoy to Haiti. And then you have the core group. And we at Free Haiti, which I run, Free Haiti, have been fighting these people alone. Okay. There was no media telling you what you see right now. All these Haitians talking about it, right?
Right.
And even now, for the first time in history, a U.S. ambassador repeats what I've been saying, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody called me radical and I hate white people and I'm racist and all kinds of things. But it took years to get here. And believe me, they're going to change the story. Mm-hmm. So 7 months after the earthquake, while everybody was crushed, the UN was rotating different soldiers into Haiti for 6 months. And they were rapists. They were murdering us. They left hundreds of thousands of babies. They call the minister babies in Haiti. But the world was silent. These are the things that these heroes, our heroes, these Haitians you see are just, we will write songs about them. Mm-hmm. We will have documentaries about them. Remember, Obama told them not to come to the United States for refuge when everything has fallen down and they were crushed. Okay. So they legally went to Chile, Brazil, Peru, Costa Rica, Panama, and all these places, right? But when they just took their money, and then when there was no job after the, I think 2016 Olympic Games in Brazil, they were just thrown out. And the Central Americans and the South Americans, they have a route because before then, because of racism and all that, Haitians always took to the seas. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is the first time because they had gone to Chile, right? Because Chile was one of the nations that was part of the UN mission, and they realized that Haitians were not cannibals. It was like, oh, we can get some money from these people. So they gave them these in Brazil. We can get, they gave them these, they legally left Haiti. And then when so many of them was coming, and they had problems, and they finished using them for the construction of the Olympic Village in 2016. They deported them all, and they had nowhere to go. So they started that route at 7,000 miles that got them to San Diego or Del Rio. So those Haitians you see now have been traveling for 10 years.
Wow.
Okay. I mean, these are our heroes. For 10 years, they have survived the jungles of Panama and Nicaragua and Colombia and Ecuador. They have walked, they have taken planes, they have taken buses to get where you saw them. And then some cowboy is going to beat that man.
So all the money that's coming into Haiti, that's been coming into Haiti, that the media will have people believe is being spent in the money, but the money's not reaching the Haitians. So are most of the businesses in Haiti right now financed or owned by mainly European businessmen?
They're called the Middle Eastern oligarchs, the Syrians, the Lebanese, and the Israels. They're the billionaires of the Caribbean. They have more money than Syrians, Lebanese. They are less than 1%, half of 1% of the Haitian population. And they own 98% of our wealth in all the ports. Syrians, Lebanese, and Israelis. Okay. They're the ones that bring in the drugs and the guns. Okay. I want to go back to real quick. Just remember your question. Okay. Because I'm gonna forget it, but I just want to go back to the when did cholera come to Haiti? Like I said, it was 7 months after the earthquake. The Nepalese soldiers, Nepal has like their endemic. Cholera is endemic in their country.
Yes.
That means they live with it. They've had it for so long. Okay. But for us, there's no protection. Okay. Because the racist idea is we're the diseased one. Remember, they try to pin HIV/AIDS on us.
Right.
Okay. So they brought these soldiers that came from, and they were not just the Nepalese. Okay. Nepalese are the only ones we caught. Right. But there were others. Okay. The Nepalese were staying in a place called My River Haiti had less violence than most of the nations in the Western Hemisphere. And it's the only one that had a UN force with a shoot to kill, Chapter 7, shoot to kill. That's why I always say, whenever I come anywhere, that the UN will fall for their crimes against my people and all Africans, right? They are just the puppets for colonialism, right? Where 5 nations have veto power over 94 nations, and they call that the best system in the world in democracy, right? So the UN, who the little nations are bought off by these 5 Eurasian powers. You guys know who they are: United States, France, England, China, and Russia, right? So essentially, the Nepalese at My River in Mirebalais, in a place called Mirebalais, poisoned our water. I'm a performance artist, and the only way I survive all this crisis is by releasing, like through drama, my work, because there was a point in time nobody would hear me, but they can hear more, like when you put it in a play, like it's not for real, but all my work is from real life. But it was the only way I could release, right? I took my drums, and so the play I wrote about the cholera, it's called, I have a niece. Hi, Alana, my beautiful niece. She was 5 years old, and I was writing that play, and she said, tell her what I'm doing. And when I told her, she said, "You mean the UN is not potty trained?" That became the title of my piece.
So what is the title? The
UN is not potty trained. Because they They're Nepalese soldiers. Went, had the bacteria in their bodies, and you can only pass it through your feces. And they passed it through their feces into our water, and our people drank it. So the ironic things is sometimes they look at me and they think, oh, she's a black woman. They always like to tell me I look good. So, I'm not one of these unwashed masses. Right. So they asked me to come in. I think it was the Dramatist Guild, an organization that would never, when I did Red, Black, and Moonlight is my play. You see me always in red and black.
Okay.
My one woman play is Red, Black, and Moonlight. And also red and black is the real flag of Haiti, and it's the colors of Ogun, the father warrior, Ogun.
Yeah.
So since we're calling the ancestors with everything we have, it's in all my colors. It's in everything I do and everything I say. So I wrote that play. It was the American Dramatist Guild. I had a play that when I came back from Haiti, I was born in Haiti, and I went back as the lawyer of the first democratically elected Haitian president, Jean-Bertrand Aristide. The United States, of course, deported him to Africa in 2004 to destroy our democracy. And then brought in the UN to bring in peace, right? Because what we say is that the Eurasians, the Europeans, they play both roles, hero and villain, right? And they confuse the simple-minded person who only knows, there's just like you either a hero or villain, but you can't be both. They're both. They play both. Okay, so they destroy your democracy, deport your president, and then they supposed to be a hero by bringing in UN to restore order. That's their template. Okay, so essentially, those Nepalese they went to the bathroom and they put their feces into our water. People bathe. Haitians have lived by themselves without foreigners. So in these mountain villages and hamlets, right? But now when you introduce foreign bacteria, within a week of October 2010, it had killed 1,500 people. And the mayor called me because I'm the one that I believe Haitians when they tell me that this is happening to them, right? And we sent somebody. We got a sample of the water. But it wasn't until a white man, epidemic, I think I can't say that word.
Epidemiologist.
Yes, thank you very much. Said that the DNA of the bacteria, the cholera, was South Asian, and then the UN started a whole cover up. It wasn't Haitian DNA.
Wow.
It was their DNA. Okay. But before they had the Christians in Haiti, just like the ghettos in America, like there's two things you can count on, a church and a liquor store.
Right.
Well, they make Haitians submissive with all kinds of, their churches, right? By the time we were out there saying that this wasn't a Haitian disease, that it was foreign, they had the Christians were killing voodooists because they said it was the voodooists that had cursed Haitians and they were dying from that curse. So they had killed like 70. I mean, I know at least 70. They could have killed more. And then because they said it was the Haitian voodooists that was killing people. They didn't know anything about, because, we're blamed for everything.
Right.
We're cursed. We do black magic.
Right.
It's not the devil is us. It's not the folks that are actually doing it. So, and the UN has never taken responsibility for what it did. Essentially, when I tried to sue the UN, the white saviors ran ahead of me and raised money and said that they were going to make a $2 billion settlement with the UN to clean Haiti's water. Never did it. Okay. When I said, I was going to bring the law, the case to the UN directly by suing them in New York court. I'm a New York lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted something called specific performance. All the intellectuals and all the great so-called legal experts said, you can't sue the UN because they have immunity. Okay. Right. I said, they don't have immunity for specific performance. We want the carriers of this disease to be quarantined.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. They would not listen to me. See, now they're using Title 42 to say to take out the Haitians, right? Because supposedly they're bringing whatever, okay? And they're using contact tracing to make millions and billions of dollars with COVID. But when we, Haitian, said we have to sue the UN to stop to quarantine, get specific performance. You are paralegal, right?
Yes.
To get specific performance, and that's not subject to immunity. All the white saviors ran ahead of us and drowned out our voice. So nobody ever heard us. And so that's how the cholera came. That's how it became an epidemic. The soldiers were never quarantined. They were allowed to spread the disease. And so those Del Rio Haitians you see, they are fleeing coup d'etat, fake elections, fake aid, $13 billion that was taken by the charitable industrial complex and the Clinton Foundation and all those people, and the fact that these charitable industrial complex brought all of their garbage to Haiti. Like if you go on a road right now, we're a small nation. There was like 40,000 charitable industrial complex snakes in Haiti in 2010 after the earthquake. And they brought their lifestyle, their Western lifestyle, and we're not used to it. And it clogged up all our, landfills with garbage. And that's the story. But my people, I'm telling you right now, right? Those people you see, I know it's horrible. Okay. The journey they had to go through. It is inhuman, the treatment they got along the way. Okay. I've been writing about it since I think 2013. I have a piece called 7,000 Miles to Freedom. You see, it's only today that people are understanding that these are not folks from the earthquake that just happened. The media does that on purpose.
Right.
They're earthquake survivors from 2021 of August 14th in the South. But that's not true. They're from the earthquake and the failed aid and rebuilt Haiti back better. That's why when Biden was running for president and going to Little Haiti in Miami and kneeling down with these dancers and asking for the Haitian vote, I said, you Haitians, if you vote for them, you are ashamed. Black people who voted for this man are shameful. I said it out loud. I said it hard. And now none of the progressive news media will have me on any other platforms. I said, no. I spent my whole life as a lawyer fighting prosecutors like Kamala Harris, who was warehousing our men.
Right, exactly.
Okay, my whole life. And these boule black folks are gonna run around talking about she's a black woman. Listen, black is how you act. It don't mean just your skin color.
She had everybody believing that she was black because she said, "Look, sis," because she said
like Hillary Clinton's hot sauce.
And she sang Tupac's music, and she was into his music.
Like Hillary Clinton's hot sauce and she went to that ridiculous Breakfast Club talking about, I got hot sauce in my bag.
I remember.
Remember that, sister? them white women, and I'm saying it over and over and over again. Okay, these white women are so much worse than the children they have that are killing us on that horse. Okay, and they've been doing it since slavery, because there's two white women right now who are causing the genocide in Haiti. Ellen Lalume and Michel Sisson. I curse their name and all their descendants.
United Nations, one of the United Nations. Who are they?
Ellen Lalume is at the United Nations. Sisson is, she's, and you know, they're horrid Nazis. But you know, the checkbook media, they're getting paid to say, you know, America the most democratic.
Right. The media, you can't trust anything that they're saying. And that's why even now, with them all of a sudden just focusing on Haiti, you got to sit back and say what's really going on. Because anytime you see that, you know it's something else that's really happening.
That's right. There's something else happening.
Yeah, something much
There's
bigger than
absolutely something else happening. You know, for us, the investigation into the murder of the Haitian president
the assassination.
was connecting a lot of the CIA and FBI people.
Mm-hmm.
It was connecting their geopolitics, because that guy had Jovenel Moïse had just, for the first time in Haitian history, remember I was telling you about Cuba and Venezuela?
Right.
Venezuela is below us. The only reason Venezuela still can maintain some level of independence is because it has Russia as an ally. Mm-hmm. So does Cuba. Well, this puppet, as bad as he was, and as much as he executed massacres on behalf of Michel Sisson and the core group and the oligarchs that control Haiti, the Middle Eastern oligarchs that the United States brought, because the Arabs had 1,000 years of slavery before the Europeans. Mm-hmm. So we are the first one to beat the Europeans. And so they figured they'll get the Arabs who know how to enslave Black people, become our oligarchy. Mm-hmm. Wow. And they brought them in through immigration, right? So immigration is used for many, many, many things. Okay. So when I first saw the thousands and thousands of Haitians, I just sat back like you, sister. And I'm like, what is the real story here? Mm-hmm. Who actually opened that border? Mm-hmm. What happened to Trump's wall? Right. So, and I because, you know, these people are predators, but they are very diabolical. Why would they do that? Well, part of it is because they probably, you know, the progressives, the Republicans, wanted to like do something for, you know, like they're always fighting for power. Right. So they, you know, Biden, all that stuff, you know, knock off the Afghanistan, show how hypocritical the demon rat policies are. There's a lot of things that the oligarchs do, and they use us, Black people, as pawns.
Definitely.
You know, so there's a lot of threads to this history. Mm-hmm. The thread is, you know, $13 billion was raised by the Clintons, and it never rebuilt Haiti back better. So when temporary protected status was given, the stuff they keep saying that was giving to Haitian, it wasn't given to the Haitians of the earthquake. It was given to the Haitians who were already in America before the earthquake.
Okay, you said it was given to who?
Haitians were already in America before the earthquake. So you had to, so temporary protected. So, you know, the media always like tells the lie that temporary protected status is given to earthquake victims. If it did, then you wouldn't have these people going to Chile. It was extended for a year to, I'm talking about the 2010 earthquake victims, right? Okay. Temporary protected status is supposed to be given when your country can't, there's a natural disaster.
So it was the percentage of the 2010 earthquake victims that actually came to the United States and also went to Brazil, or how were they dispersed? And so the money is being used only for the ones that are here in the United States, that out of the...
I'm sorry. Say it again.
The 2010 earthquake victims. So you
Right.
said that the billions of dollars that the Clinton Foundation raised.
Oh yeah. They just stole that money. It never even left America or France or any of those places. They gave like a trickle down of that money. I think they said for every dollar that was given to Haiti, 1 cent went to the Haitian government, and I think 3 cents went to the Dominican Republic government. But the Haitians, we got nothing. We got, as a matter of fact, fake election. Obama ran 3 fake elections in Haiti to give us a horrible man named Michel Martelly, who was a carnival king, who's a misogynist, who, he performs with a thong on. He's a man. And of course, they brought us the men in pink. That's what they call them, because the Eurasians are natural pederasty people. They hate women and at their core, because their Abrahamic religion got rid of Èzili Dantò, the black mother. So in Haiti, the people they put in power, they're puppets. Most of them are men in pink.
So and they put people in power, and then they end up assassinating them because
yes, they did. Yes, they did. And that investigation was something also that was knocked out of the media by this Del Rio thing. You understand? They always use one emotional story to knock off another emotional story that they don't want anybody to hear. So yes, and I have for those who want to understand, then go to EziliDantò.com. I talk about how who killed the puppet president of Haiti and why, and I show how it's connected to the geopolitics. They were just pawns. Very quickly, okay, but I have a whole piece on it, okay, and I have at least 4 or 5 interviews I did in that time in July that you all can go watch on my YouTube channel, and they shadow banned me, so you'll see only 300 people when like thousands of people have watched it, but that's what they do.
Okay, your website is at the bottom. Last but not least, can you just quickly tell us what the process is for the deportations that are happening, or even the asylum process? Most of the refugees who were under the bridge, because their feet were where they were, do they automatically qualify for asylum, or is there some other process that they have to go through to even get the asylum? And are there enough lawyers there that can speak the language to be able to assist them, or are we lacking attorneys that can properly process all of these refugees?
So the law requires that a refugee is not sent back, that they have to be screened for what were they running for. If they were being persecuted, they have legal rights of not to be sent back, of not to be punished for coming, trying to save their lives. They are entitled to health care, food, shelter, and court representation, and so on. Okay. But Haitians, immigrants, have never, ever in my whole entire life been afforded the same rights that others have been afforded.
Right.
Racism, America, both the Democrats and the Republicans treat us just as bad. I started, when I was like 8 years old, translating for a Haitian deportee in Stamford, Connecticut. That's how long. When I wrote Red, Black, and Moonlight, I have pieces like Breaking Sea Chains and Capsize 1997, Capsize 2017, Capsize 2007. So I've gone through. I have little. One of my big pieces that I get a lot of awards for is called little Haitian girl with in the yellow dress, little girl in the yellow dress, right? That was in 2002. You know, so I survived by putting it into, performance pieces.
Right.
Other Haitians have to find other ways of speaking and trying to get rid of the trauma.
Wow.
But the difference between a migrant and a refugee is really important to understand why they're not giving us why. Okay, they have changed some. So here's the situation right now. As far as I know, I've been doing interviews most of the day, so I haven't looked at the news. But as of last night, all 12 to 17,000 people that were under the Del Rio Bridge are no longer there anymore.
Right.
They have moved to detention centers. Some have been, if they met certain criteria, which as a lawyer, I'm not too sure I understand at the moment. Okay. Because different people will tell you different things in terms of the immigration people, but what's happening on the ground is a little different than what they're saying.
Right.
But essentially, those who have family in the United States and were able to contact those families, and those families sent them a bus ticket, they're giving them what's that thing that you put on your ankles?
Ankle bracelet.
Yes, yes, to monitor, and then they could go to their family members.
Wow.
Others with no family or with certain criteria that they have not met, whatever, are put into these detention centers. And
what about the Title 42? What is that? They're using that as well.
Okay, so when this first happened, I think it was September 19. I think is last week. The days are running for me, okay? But when this, I think it was September 19, right? Or that weekend, okay? Biden has been following since he got into office the same line as his president, Obama, deporting Haitians, even though he said he was going to do different than Trump. Okay. So he came into office in 2020, January. And I think by February, he had like 18 flights to Haiti. When this happened, I'm just going to say last week or 2 weeks ago, September 19th, whenever that was. That's when that September 19th was the first plane that landed in Haiti. Okay. Because I have people who were there at the airport from the crop of Haitians that were taken from the Del Rio Bridge. Okay. And it's my understanding that they summarily deported between 2,000 to 5,000. And then when people started rallying and seeing these photos or whatever, and it started to be politically bad for him, he started not deporting. Actually, they're very confusing. If you read what the Homeland Security person is saying, it's like he said they're continuing to deport pursuant to 42. Okay, so Title 42 is all right, first let me just tell you the law. A migrant is someone who's like essentially they choose to leave their country. They don't have the rights of a refugee. This is why they keep saying, the checkbook media keep calling Haitians migrants. So they make these laws and then they undermine these laws with these little sophisticated words. So the 1951 International Refugee Right Bill, whatever, if you look at it, you guys, I've been doing this like for a while. So go to my last live. Essentially, it's on my Facebook page. I have the whole law. A refugee who has left their country because they are in danger of dying, they are being persecuted, as the Haitians are. But the United States don't want them to be refugees because the United States tells everybody Haiti's having democratic elections that they're paying for, right? So they can't go to court and say, oh, you being persecuted by us. So they call them migrants. And they treat them differently from mulatto and white immigrants.
Mhm.
Okay. So the Cubans, for instance, are automatically allowed into America because America doesn't own Cuba and is trying to get rid of that government. So it wants Cuban refugees so it can prove its case. But it colonized Haiti
Mhm.
and it has death squads killing Haitians. It doesn't want those stories in court. So they were automatically sending us back, which was in contravention of basic immigration rights. The High Commission of the UN also protested, told the United States that the use of Title 42 to
Mhm.
automatically, without screening and due diligence, send these Haitian back is a violation of international law.
Right. Mhm.
42, you know, they're using the pandemic for a lot of things, okay? The
course.
pandemics, okay? So it's COVID.
Mhm.
It's a Title
Yeah.
42 essentially says that, you know, these Haitians might be diseased and they might be
Exactly.
bringing into the country. So we don't have to have them here. We're going to send them back.
Right.
That's what it says. So they're using COVID for a lot of ways, and that's one of them. It's illegal, but a federal judge did stop them. But
Mhm.
the Haitians who were sent back, poor people who had spent years in Brazil. There was just one woman, and I have the videos for people, for Haitians listening to me. I think our job is to give voice to these Haitians because they have traveled so long. There's one woman who, when she got to Haiti, she was, you know, one of these that was automatically denied due process, right? She said that, you know, she came from Chile, something like she came from Chile. She has a Chilean daughter, and you know, she was hoping to get it. She left because if you don't have papers, they're persecuting you and throwing you out. So she had nowhere to go. She was stateless. And then all of a sudden, you know, she says America, she's been through 11 countries. She said America was the worst. A man that I heard talk, who was part of the Del Rio folks, he said that they put him in a prison, and the 6 days that he was in there before they put him on a plane, they never gave him a shower. He said even a pig requires a shower. But yes, they do give showers to the Venezuelans, the Colombians, and the Cubans that were part of that. And you don't see them in the pictures, but they are there. And they, you know, and they're a little bit more in terms of, like, they might have more money than Haitians.
Mhm.
So so there's a classism going on. And so they
Right,
might be treated better. So that's the difference between a migrant is seen as someone who chooses to leave their country.
Okay.
When you
Yeah.
choose to leave your country, you don't have the legal rights of a refugee.
Mhm.
A refugee has the right to be heard, not be sent back if there's reasonable concerns about persecution or dying.
Right.
And then they are entitled to health care and all kinds of, you know, basic human rights.
Mhm.
The Haitians were not given that. But now that the world sees this,
Right.
the administration is saying that they're going to process them and give them some 12,000 of them are going to be allowed to see a judge.
Okay.
That was the last thing I saw. Okay. But you guys should follow, you know, check it. But that's the last thing I saw. But I know that, how do you know that's going to happen? Because a lot of the Haitians who came back, I think there was like 2,000 to 5,000 in this time, right? They kept having like 8 flights a day.
Wow.
They said that they took their papers away. So if they took their papers away, how are we going to know who actually went through the system?
Right.
And who is being sent back to traffickers for sex slaves, and who's going to be put into brothels? And it's awful.
So the special envoy that resigned, you know, he was in a position. He said, I'm not getting involved with this. This is my opportune time to get out, because some of the things that he said was really, it needed to be said out in public the way that he said it. So in his position, I don't know how long he was the special envoy and how long he may have been seeing so much of what was going on, and this was just that time where he's like, I can't do this anymore, or he saw it for so long and there was really nothing he could do to say anything or do anything or make the changes that needed to be made, or even recommendations that he possibly could have made. And maybe he did do these things and it just didn't help until it became public in the media the way it did. Yeah.
He was he's a career. Danielle Foote is the U.S. envoy, Biden's envoy to Haiti.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't appointed until July, after the death of
Oh, so he's recent. Okay.
yes, he's
Oh, okay.
So either after the death or just when Biden came in. Okay. So Biden has been here for a year, 2020, right? So it's one of those, I think he's very recent. Okay. He just came in, I'm pretty sure. Okay. But you guys check it. Okay. Because my mind is going right now. He came in after July 7th. Okay. I'm as I talk to you, I'm going to look it up. But what's really important, people, about this man is this. Okay. So Haiti doesn't have a government right now that's even, selected, because the president was assassinated by these same people that put him in on July 7th, right? 2021. And then Biden, put together this special envoy. And so I'm right. He was appointed in July. Okay. After this death, right? Because Biden was trying to, do something different. Okay. But as you can see, I have his letter in my Instagram. Everybody who wants to know the updates, please go to my Instagram channel. That's where I'm putting as much as I can. Also, we have the Free Haiti Movement page. I run the Free Haiti Movement. I started it in 2004 when the Eurasians came, when they came back, the UN, to recolonize us. 2004 was the 200th anniversary of Haiti's independence, and they came for a reason. They said that by 2019, there was going to be 20 million Haitians, and that was a bomb waiting to happen. So they had to try to thin the herd. Essentially, it's called the Ottawa Initiative. They said it.
You are full of information. What's your IG address?
My IG address, off the top of my head, let me tell you a minute. I'm gonna tell you it's Èzili Dantò, Zili. It's my name without E.
Okay.
So it's Instagram. Èzili Dantò, okay? Just go there, people. You will see I have a copy of Danielle Foote's letter. I have a copy of some videos of Haitians testifying. I'm looking at that letter right now, Danielle Foote's letter, and he says okay. I'll tell you how important this is. I'm losing where I am. Where's my StreamYard? Okay, here we go. All right. So in all the years I've been doing this work, and it's really like people call me radical. So Danielle Foote just said exactly what Haitians have been saying. People call me crazy. So this is the most amazing thing. The media is spinning it to be just about the Del Rio Haitians, okay? Because but it's not. And this is really important for those who want to help us, to help the Haitians who are going through the Mahafa, the Middle Passage, everywhere in the Caribbean. Remember, we are the only ones that don't have a European colonized father.
Right.
We beat them, right? So there are 15 island nations. They call it Caribbean. We're the only one. All the others are Jamaicans bow to the Queen.
Right.
Martinique to France. St. Lucia, France. Haiti has no European father, so they do what United States does, whatever it wants to us, and they have come together in the core group. In all my years, I have never seen you know how they have the blue wall for police brutality?
Right.
Well, there's a diplomatic wall, and I have never seen it broken, ever. Not like this in Haiti, never publicly. They might talk to me privately.
Right.
Right. But they're not going to put their career and their pension on the line for me.
Right.
Okay. So, yeah, never have I seen it. Okay. So the Jovenel Moïse, the puppet president, he was a murderer. He was an assassin. So an assassin was assassinated. And he was assassin. Like I said, part of the reason was because he was going to be replaced by his puppet masters. He didn't want to end up in prison because after they finished, he was a drug money launderer. After they finished using you, just like Noriega, you end up in a Miami prison. So he tried to leverage by having a Russian ambassador accepting a Russian ambassador's credentials in Haiti.
Whoa.
That's what he did. And they killed him for that. But you won't find that in the media.
Right, right.
Ever. Okay? But I'm tired of talking.
Yes.
So I only, it's really, really hard to not, to have to witness to yourself constantly and have no echo.
Right.
It's people like you, Naj. I think it was Irritated Genie you said that connected us.
Yes.
That know that I've been out here for decades after decades after decades.
Yes.
And I don't even take the white saviors interviews anymore because I just want to talk to my people. It doesn't make any sense anymore. I have a piece where I always say, for whose entertainment shall I tell my agony?
Wow.
Those who, are just going to revel in their own success. So I have that. And what's really, really important about Daniel Foot's letter, so he was although he's a career ambassador, and all of them are economic hitmen, the book,
right.
All of them, that's what they are. And I dislike the guy who wrote the economic, not because I know him personally or whatever, but because everybody, especially the white saviors, they try to elevate him as some hero. Let me tell you, Daniel Foot is a hero because he whistleblowed in the middle of his career. He didn't wait till he retired like that guy. That's what they do. Remember, I told you the European plays both hero and villain.
Right.
So the guy that wrote the economic hitman that told about how the CIA and the diplomats work together and they destroy a country, they give it debt that they can't pay, and then they take their lands and so on. He was part of the people killing and murdering for empire, right? But he didn't stop killing. He waited till he retired. And then he had a whole career as an activist running around touring with this book, telling people, because the European loves to tell you how much of a hero he is after he's been the villain. But what's different about Daniel Foot, what's amazing about Daniel Foot is this is right in the middle of the action.
Right. 2 months after he took the position.
Yes. Okay. So all our prayers, hopefully we see the purge happening.
Yes.
Because we see the purge happening everywhere on the planet. People are rising up.
Yes.
My heroes at the border, they will not give up.
Right.
Mothers who have lost their children to water rushing, they will not give up.
Ashe.
Okay. So, and here we have, a Chichayuri, a Yorugu, a Neanderthal person, descendant, breaking the mass consciousness. He just broke the mass consciousness. And I hope white people follow his road.
Right.
I said this at the last interview. I'm going to say it again. There is a Black woman that Biden has hired or appointed as the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. Her name is Linda Thomas Greenfield. She's a 35-year career ambassador. We hope, Miss Greenfield. I wrote you a letter last week asking you not to recognize the current Prime Minister of Haiti, Ariel Henry, because he was appointed by those two witches of the West. Came before Danielle Foote that are in Haiti and the UN right now. Ellen Lalume and Michel Sisson preside over our death in Haiti. But you are new. And I know you know our pain. And I wrote you and I said, listen, Haitians have a Haitian solution to the vacuum that's been created by this puppet no longer being president. We have an accord where we have Haitian civil society from every segment, including Free Haiti and the Èzili Network. And we have put together a process of how we can go and have real elections and choose our own leaders. This is the most powerful message in Danielle Foote's letter. He says that all Haitians have been asking is to lead themselves and choose their own leaders.
Right.
Not leaders that will only be about the interests of the United States and the corporations and the corporatocracy.
Right.
Who are only concerned about making us wage slaves and about taking our resources and about dependency through the poverty pimping charitable industrial complex. We have resources. We have the head of Venezuela's oil is in the waters of Haiti. That's why they were fracking and taking our oil that gave us that August 14th, 2021 earthquake.
Oh my gosh.
And so Danielle Foote, read his letter.
I did. I read it. It's
Did you
powerful.
see it? It's so powerful, right? It's just like
powerful.
what we've been saying, right?
Right.
Like he called Ariel Henry a de facto. Those are my words. Those are the words of Haitians, right? He said this guy is not legitimate.
He said what needed to be said.
You know,
we are winding down on time. Is it possible that we can end with the Bookman's prayer? I wanted to ask you, and I hope that you have the energy, because I really want to conjure it as we close. And we'll close out right after you finish. But I just want to thank you so much for coming on. It's been a learning experience. I've taken notes, and I really, really appreciate you, and hope that you can come back on later, to talk to us and do a round 2 once everything actually manifests as to what is really, really happening right now.
absolutely. So we have a Haitian solution. It's called the Montana Accord, and I'm going to try to see if I could be in there to represent the Haitian diaspora. So Haitians listening, let everybody know that Èzili Dantò wants to represent the diaspora. We want to talk to the international community and get some justice. And we want all of Haitians to have an international dialogue, because we have so much pain that we have to release. We don't just need an election. We have to figure out how we can survive all of this imperialist terror that we've lived through, from cholera to minister babies with no fathers abandoned, to 2 earthquakes and tons of these hurricanes. During the Haitian Revolution, the beginning of the Haitian Revolution on August 14th, 1791, Bookman called on Èzili Dantò, the warrior mother, to come in, and quickened the revolutionaries. And he began There was a mumble there. She was quickened by the spirit of the Divine Mother.
Mm.
And the prayer goes like this. I always have my fire people. I always have water. Water. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see the water?
I can see it.
All right. So we pour libation to the African ancestors, to those who first put liberty into application so that Haiti became free and then freed all of these other spaces and then allowed for the freedom to come of the U.S. people in the United States. We say thank you to all the warriors from Nat Turner,
Thank you.
Dessalines.
Shay.
We
Thank you.
say thank you to all of them from Rada to Petwo, because we have two energies. Rada to Petwo. I'm Petwo, warrior Ogu. You know, we also always have Martin Luther King and Malcolm X.
Ashe.
We always have them. Okay? And we know about balance.
Definitely.
The God, Bookman's prayer. This would begin the Haitian Revolution. In the name of Bookman, in the name of Dessalines, Boiron-Tonnerre, Grand-Guiton, Défilé, Marie-Jeanne,
Ashe.
I say again, the prayer that began the Haitian Revolution. For all the Haitians that are in detention today, who have not eaten, who have not showered, for the Haitian woman who had a baby under that bridge, for the ones who are still pregnant, we say Bookman's prayer. The God who created the earth, who created the sun, who gives us light. The God who holds the ocean, who makes the thunder roar. Our God. Our God who has ears to hear. You who are hidden in the clouds. You who watch from where you are. You see. You see. You see all that the white. You see all that the whites have made us suffer. You saw that, cowboy. You saw George Floyd. You see Biden and his crime bill and the black women and black men and women in prison. You see the destruction of the civil rights movement, destruction of the independence movement in Africa. You see. You who are hidden in the clouds, who watch us from where you are, you see all that the white man has made us suffer. The white man's God asked him to commit crimes. The white man's God asked him to commit crimes. But the God within us, wants us to do good. Our God, who is so good, so just, orders us to avenge our wrongs. It's our good God who will direct our arms and bring us victory. It's our good God who will assist us. We should throw away the images of the white man's God who is so pitiless, and listen and listen and listen to the voice of liberty which sings within all our hearts. Free Haiti, people. Free the planet.
Ashe. Ladies and gentlemen, Attorney Èzili Dantò. Ashe, my sister. Thank you.
Thank you. EziliDantò.com. Join our mailing list if you want to know the non-colonial narrative in Haiti and not want to listen to the stuff that they're talking about. At my email, just put on the subject line. I get 600 emails a day. So just put on the subject line, mailing list, Èzili mailing list. Join the Free Haiti movement on Facebook. Go to our YouTube channel. They are, like I said, shadow banning us. Click, like, share, so you can see for yourself that there's more than 300 people reading us and watching us.
Mm-hmm.
All right, people. Thank you so much, sister. May you walk in honor. May you walk with Ogu and honor all through your life. Respect.
Ashe. Respect. Peace and blessings.